Good morning.
Good morning. Yes,
Okay.
I am the creative principal of Think You Can LLC, which is a coaching company, and also the executive director of Rich Chicks, which sponsors this group. And I'm reading, well, I almost finished with Creating a Second Brain.
Oh,
So,
good. The new book.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Andrew, you should put that on your list.
Yeah. What's that title again, Karen?
Building a Second Brain.
Okay.
That concept, Andrew, I will send you. I don't know that I've done that with you before, but it's really a good concept for you. And I'll send you the cheat on, there's a 15-minute video that'll
Yeah.
give you the concept really.
And there's a lot of pieces to it. And so I'm trying to decide which part to use, because I don't know if I want to use Notion is one program that they mention to use with it when you're building your second brain. So he goes through it, and I'm on that chapter in the book where he goes through the different ways that you can actually collect your information.
Yeah.
So
I've heard that term before. I've never actually read into it too much.
So the concept of the second brain is really fantastic because it's basically saying, look, this beautiful brain of all of ours, right, is not a storage unit for storing knowledge. It's a place to think and create from. So it's building a knowledge base outside of your head.
Okay.
And for you, I can see you using that as the planner to try to kind of build packets of information.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you and I are going to have a breakfast sometime.
Yeah, I think sometime in the next few weeks, I think.
Oh, really? Okay. So you and I will talk about it then.
Okay.
And then you can tell me all your good things as well.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Hopefully I'll have a few more.
It helps in the same way that journaling does, which is you get it out of you. But it's a lot more organized than that. But it's the same concept, where you're don't have this stuff in your mind. I don't know if you do a dump sheet every morning, but I do.
Yeah, he's got one right there.
Doing it right now. I do it every day. Yeah.
And I think Jamie does it too. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do the introduction. Andrew, tell us who you are and what you're doing here and what's new and
what's new is fun and exciting. And Andrew Stoff. I work with M&E Callis Group. I do here in downtown Minneapolis. I do business financial planning. So I work with business owners to be more, I guess, in a simple way, financially efficient, especially from a tax debt standpoint, cash flow standpoint. The exciting, I guess, on it, oh boy, I've really, since I've been in the last class here, which I want to say has been about maybe 6 months now. Where does the time go? Is that really have gotten a lot more introductions around the US. I think I am now licensed in like 15 states. Like I just had my first meeting with a nice company in suburb of Seattle, Washington on it. I know I've had to get Florida, California, Georgia licenses over the last few months. And sounds like I might be getting some from like in Texas and a few other states. So I'm becoming national. In fact, I've even, well, they're moving right now. I even got a client over in Tokyo, Japan. So I'm international. So, hey, who knew a kid from a town of 600 people in rural Minnesota could be international. But yeah, that's the exciting part. And really had to adjust my goals higher for the second half of the year. So really just gonna buckle down here for second half because I've already done a lot what I wanted to even for this year, and just trying to keep making things happen. I've always learned you never adjust your goals down, but this is the first time I've had to adjust them up in a year, and that's really cool. So I'm really excited to see where second half of the year goes.
And you had a lot of pieces that kind of started putting together, right? I mean, you had systems that you had to put into place.
Yeah.
You had to really do those daily activities to get to where you want.
Yeah, staffing. That was Mickey, last time we met was kind of how to utilize that. And now my paraplanner is basically my right-hand person. We literally talk almost every day. Keeps, not only do I give him and tasks to do, but he also keeps me accountable to make sure we get things done. And so it's a nice kind of working relationship there. I can actually see, potentially by the end of the year, if things kind of come down the way I hope they do, adding even a second staff person.
Yep.
Where it comes to like more scheduling and servicing and whatnot on it, which would be helpful, and just start building out my own little team. Because yeah, I mean, if I got about 6 cases that are pretty big. When I say pretty big, I mean decent 5-figure up type compensation. I mean, it's definitely move up tax brackets, but definitely want to kind of keep rolling on it. There's gonna be some new challenges there to come along with it. So just kind of excited to see how to get involved with that. Learning how to be a boss with staff was kind of something I had to grow into as well. Not only from a delegation standpoint, but like I said, of course they eat first type thing. So, hey, making sure I keep up with my activity. And that's what really I've been working on a lot the last couple of weeks, my marketing plan for second half of the year. And, now kind of the planning part's done. Now it's like, okay, I got to make sure you stay diligent to actually get it done. And so it's like the planning part's always fun because you think about all these big goals and whatever you can do. Well, now you got to like go out and do it. So making sure you actually get it done is the next challenge. So I got quite a few things going on this week, and we'll see what happens. Like, it's going to be pretty cool.
When we meet, I have a little cheat for you on review.
Okay.
So I think that's another thing your paraplanner can probably work on.
Okay.
What I'm really, here's the question that everyone has, which is, right, you're a great example of it was just this year that you walked in with really defining who your assistant is, how they're going to do it. They're called a paraplanner. So that means that you as a planner, it's someone like you, but not. And right, at first you're like, what am I going to do? But now you're 6 months in and you can really see the flow, how to move that workload off of you, understanding their capacity. Tell us about the capacity part, because you had to learn what they could do.
Yeah, it was quite a few conversations I've had to have with Carter is his name. And yeah, Mickey, just so everyone watching, he was a advisor for about 6 months, and he's like, nope, not for me. And so he fits in this role and it's great. But it's just learning with like, how can I utilize them to take more things off my plate, which is like getting the good data from the client. So it's like getting, tax returns, getting whatever we need to have it. I let him run all our software stuff, so I don't have to learn it. He's like, perfect, you do it. You spend 40 hours a week doing this, you do that. I just have to have a working knowledge of it or kind of understand how I want things to see. But I'm like, you do that. I'm not even gonna, if I go in there, I'm gonna screw something up. So just let them basically work to his strengths, which is let him do that. Me work to my strengths, which is, doing the advising, doing the strategy, and getting more clients to sit down with. And then it's just like, okay, well, how do we do follow-up? How do we do like the whole, then taking like it through the whole process on it? So it's like, okay, we're going to implement these things. This is how, I'd like to have it done. What's the most efficient way you found, and kind of finding common ground there. And then just making sure we do right follow-ups on it to get things implemented. But then also it's like, okay, when do we want to meet back with them? It's like, and we added some other software to help out with that, to where it's like, I'm not doing everything through Outlook. And so it's just like finding a real balance on it. And then me as well, because it feels like I throw a lot at him. And of course, that's what I pay him to do on it. But again, part of my success is success with them. So it's like, I want to make them feel like they're involved with it. And we've kind of come into agreement on, okay, if we hit certain levels on it, it's like, hey, we're going to do this, like I've already done quite a few lunches and stuff with them. But then it's like, hey, if I really blow out third quarter on it, you know, gonna go, you know, he's 24. I'm like, let's go get, instead of just giving him money, it's like, let's go get like a suit, you know, custom clothing on it, you know, something that was really kind of attracted to him, where he feels like he's bought in as well, even though he's not, you know, I'm self-advisor, I'm self-employed. It's like, you know, it's really kind of my name, my business, but it gets him to buy in as much as me on what I want to get done. And that's been kind of the cool part on it, because he's just like, he cheers me on a lot as well. He's like, man, you're crushing it. Like, keep doing well. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm trying, man. So it's just kind of having that good balance of like, let him work his strengths, let me work my strengths, but let's do it collaboratively. But then have him kind of buy into my goal, my dream, my visions as well. And you know, that's where it's been really good. And I'm excited to see what happens for third quarter. You know, fourth quarter for us is always busiest time of the year. So the fact I'm at this level through half the year is pretty exciting. You know, it'd be interesting to see what happens after third quarter, because July probably might be my best month ever. And so I'm like, man, there's a good chance I might even double what I did all first half of the year. So, and let's just see what happens. So yeah,
So
just
can-
fingers crossed.
let me recap. Let me recap, because some of the things that I think are really important for everyone else too is, one, congratulations.
Thank you.
But again, taking that prosperity concept forward, I really appreciate, of really looking at how to, when you're co-creating, is to really put in the celebration to the compensation, right? Not just saying, hey, I'm going to give you $100. I'm going to take you to the most beautiful lunch you've ever had,
Yeah.
right? It's really understanding how to celebrate their co-creation with you. So that as a prosperity concept is I have to give you some credit for, because you're magnifying exactly how you want, right? I want you to feel rich. I want you to feel the bounty of doing well.
Yeah.
The other thing that you put on there is really looking at, right, the key item, I think, for everyone who's inviting other people to work for you is working to the strengths of both you and your first employee. The common ground is really going, here's the common ground, and then the outcome and the implementation oversight. And I think, Jamie, and that's one for you really to really learn from as well, is, right, what's the outcome and what's the implementation oversight. So yeah, kudos to you.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. We have Josette today. So thanks for chiming in. Josette, we haven't seen you very often. Welcome, NW2. This is your first time. We usually do a round robin, just introduction of yourself. You can also put it into the chat box. I don't know if you are available to come on. Are you able to come on with audio, Josette? Okay, well, we're going to just invite you to put it into the chat box. Fatun Ali, can you give us your introduction before you might have to slip out? We also have some other people that are going to be slipping in and slipping out. Fatun Ali, are you available to come on in? Okay, well then I'm going right up to Jamie. And hey, you've had a huge month. Give us your update.
Well, I am in the midst of planning for the Slavic Experience in August.
Right.
Yeah. And got them all on one page. Kind of had to be a stickler. And I did get her to let me add on some people that she's going to pay for that's not going to come out of my payments that she just needs.
Right.
To be a part of her project. So that's going okay. The Minneapolis Park Board is very frustrating. Yeah, they're very, very frustrating to work with. So that was that. And I was able to secure her 2 sponsors this week, which is a big deal because they've been working on this project for 2 years and don't have anything.
Right.
And quite a few vendors too that are joined on board. So that's a good thing. But I also I've been a part doing these these styled photo shoots with a lady here in North Carolina, and she's like kind of like a big guru. Ooh La La Events is the name of her company, and she's a huge guru on styled events. And so I've done 3 with her, styled photo shoots. I've done 3 with her thus far. 2 of them I did the tables for them and food, and 1 of them I just did food. From her, the styled events, the food, she called me a couple weeks ago and asked me, she's like, I have this huge creation that I want to do around the Bridgerton show, or Bridgerton. And I was like, well, I've never seen Bridgerton other than pictures.
Right.
So we got to talking about that. And then she was like, can you possibly create me a menu behind this? And so I created a menu, sent it to her, and she called me and said, can you send me a contract? Because I have a huge costume party every year at Halloween with 300 guests. And we do dinner service for 300 guests, and we want plated dinner service, and I want your menu.
This is wonderful.
Yep. And it is a big contract. I am going to have to bring in 3 other kind of food creators to assist with this. One of them is already joining my team. He comes from the Marriott hotels, and he's just tired of not being able to be creative. But the part that I don't like to do is catering, and the part that he doesn't like to do is making food an experience. So together, this will be the 3rd thing that we do together. Together, I think we will be a good match with each other. The couple of other that I'm bringing in also are major caterers. So it's kind of me designing and them and picking out execution along with my team, and then a couple of others. But it's a big contract. I basically sent her, she's paying $1.25 per person to feed them.
Right. It's a nice, that's a nice chunk of change.
Yeah. And then from my rental company, she's renting all the tables, all the linens, all the glassware, all the cups, all of everything, because the place has nothing that she's doing this at. And I've been engulfed in watching Bridgerton.
Right.
So I know.
And that's what we've been manifesting this year, is those $40,000 contracts, right?
Yeah.
Is to be able to go, we're not going to do these smaller ones anymore. We're really going to focus on doing these larger $40,000 contracts. And that's a big deal, right? I mean, to be able to say, let me showcase at a much higher piece. Janet typed in licensing from the show. Do you want to, Janet, do you want to respond to that?
Well, I think the Disney people would know best. Dawn and Ashley.
Yeah.
Ashley, yeah, like how you enjoy the inspiration of a big, like a big event, a big thing everyone knows, which is really fun. But ride that line of the licensing people, not.
Yeah, it is, I should say Bridgerton inspired, because that is definitely a time piece type of thing. So like the dessert table is like going to be these cotton candy wigs, like
Cool.
And stuff like that. So me and her did have a conversation. The word Bridgerton will not be on her stuff and what she's putting out, but she does this every year. She solidly gets 300 people. They don't mind paying her. A general admission ticket is $300. Her VIP ticket's $450. They don't mind paying it to her. She doesn't advertise this. She only sends it out in invitations. And she is, when you meet her, you think, oh, she's just this little girl with this, they design backdrops, her company and stuff. And then you find out she's really kind of somebody big and important. And all I did was raise my hand to do a styled photo shoot the first time. So that's big this week. And so I think She sent the deposit. Yeah, I sent her the contract last night, but she sent the deposit before she signed her contract. I just seen her signed it today. And so every hour I'm looking to see if the wire transfer has come through. Like,
Right.
oh Lord. So that was a big thing. But then the other thing, I'm leaving tomorrow for 3 days to travel on a private jet. So a friend of mine messaged me and said, hey, there's this really rich couple who are looking for a private chef to fly across the country for them. And part of what I've been putting in my manifestation is that I really want to put my younger team in the place of working with my ball players and stuff.
Right.
And I want to do one other level and maybe only have one client that I travel with. And that client be enough to cover what 3 of them cover.
Right.
And so my friend sent me this thing. She said, I'm in this group that is like traveling executives, and somebody posted this. I can't really tell who this is, but I think you should apply. So I applied last week, and we had a 2-hour conversation on Thursday, me and the couple did. And when they came online, I first had to get over the shell shock of who it was. And then I got to talk to them, and they asked me the weirdest questions. It is the neatest thing, because one of the things that they want to do, he's like, say you want to learn how to make chocolate stuff. Like, he's like, I literally will send you to the best chocolatier to learn how to do this and pay for it. And I was like, that is my dream, right?
That is my dream, right?
Right. I was like, I love doing that when I travel. And so anyways, then they said to me, send me a simple recipe that my wife or that my girlfriend can cook, because she can't cook. So I sent her a recipe, and he messaged back and said, if she could make this once a day or once a week for me, I'd marry her yesterday. I said, well, aren't you already engaged to her? He said, but yeah, we got to get this food thing down. And so then they said, hey, do you want to come to, they were like, hey, do you want to come to Hawaii with us on our flight Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and let's do a test run.
So there you are.
And so
the travel stage.
one thing I know about me is that once you put me in the room or in the interview, I'm almost 99% I've got the job. And so it's just a matter of me executing for them in a certain type of way when I get there. And I've never had to cook on a plane or prep food in these ovens and things that they have. So I've been YouTubing and looking at, and I have another girlfriend who she's a private jet flight attendant. So she's been kind of sending me what these kitchens on these airplanes and stuff look at. But not only does it cover what I make for my 3 clients, it adds another about $50,000 to my bank account. When I get this contract from them, and then I only have 1 client that I'm traveling with.
Yes. That's fun.
And then I'm still able to keep some revenue stream from the young people that I've been sending to my ball players and stuff like that. I'm able to pay them at a very, very high level, but then still also make money off of that, still keeping it within my brand. And then I only have 1 person that I have to deal with. So there's where my life is right now.
Good.
And this year, my thought process is to double what I made last year. And in my 6 months of this year, in my 6 months thing, I'm almost there without this new contract. But then if I get this new contract, not only have I doubled, I've increased that by 50%. So when it literally puts me making almost $750,000 this last year. And I've never done that I've done that in my real estate business.
Right.
My company makes over $1 million, but never where that's my money, where I'm only taking a portion of that away, but like where I can literally sit and say, this is what my account, this is what Jamian Selman took in, not what her company took in, but this is what Jamian Selman took in.
Right, pretty fun. Pretty fun. Well, I'll do a group clap for that one, because you know, I have a vested interest in you doing well. So you and I have another thing to talk about, so we'll talk about that later. Because if that contract comes through, we've got some really cool ways to stack some money for you on the back end. So that'll be
Yeah, I did finally get with I do have this new, they're really just in here to kind of help me make sense of my money.
right.
And I've got a little sense of my money at this point. One of them is I just needed to hire her to be on deck with me, and somebody to really be just concentrating and taking care of this and where it goes. And I'm clear of, I got this whole list of what is going out and what is coming in. I didn't know how much money I piss away because I don't know what I had coming in and what I had going out.
I'm watching Andrew go, yes.
Yeah. That sounds like if you're talking about a bookkeeper, that sounds exactly what you need. Someone just to help keep you organized. I spent half of my holiday weekend working with a business owner of mine. Granted, he's a younger guy, younger being like 26, where he hasn't filed any taxes. He hired a bookkeeper, and I looked at what the bookkeeper had. I'm like, you could just made up numbers. Yeah, where's this? You're missing this equipment, that equipment, this equipment on it. You're missing this amount of sales revenue on it, because he's trying to get financing to get some more equipment to grow his business. I'm like, I can't send this to any banks because this is just nothing. And so the fact that you would need to if you get organized to where you want to go with it, Jamian, that is exactly what you need, is someone like a bookkeeper, just so you don't have to worry about it. They can tell you, kind of give you updates of where you're at, and then you can keep focusing on what you want to do, which is like growing your businesses. So
and it even will help me, like that's how I was able to get like my Delta points to diamond status. I was able to, like, I'm literally able to see, like, if I just concentrate, so this is what I want to do. And if I just concentrate on putting my money, it may cost me a little bit more over here, but in the end, it costs me less because I'm putting money over here more into Delta, or more into here, or more into there, because I need these certain perks or these things to be able to happen for me. I spent $7,000 on luggage, but if I would have just put a little bit more money into adding points up, then my luggage would be free for the rest of the year. And that's literally a $7,000 savings. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's why over the last couple of years, I've told a lot of my clients, pay everything with a credit card on it, because either through points and or cash back, it's just going to be better for you on it. And then as long as you don't carry a balance on those cards, you pay it off, you're not paying any interest, but you get all these perks. You get like either, like I said, all the travel, the upgrades or whatnot. I got some clients end up getting like $20,000, $30,000 in cash back, where they're just like, excuse my English, but holy shit, what do I do with this money? And do I pay taxes on it? And I'm like, whatever the heck you want. And no, you don't. And so just like those little like efficiencies like that, to where it's like, I call it OPM, which is other people's money. The more you can use other people's money for things, that's going to help you out. Because it's like, hey, if I'm getting these big cashback checks, great. That can help fund employee benefits. It could help fund, equipment or things that you need. Or for God forbid, it's like, hey, I've been doing this for a while. I want to have some things come to my pocket. And so they can only just help you out with it. So kind of more, and the thing that you're going to realize as well too, is now you have someone doing this for you, so you don't have to do it. So like with something like that, I got bookkeepers that only cost like $300-400 a month. Well, what's an extra 10 to 15 hours a month going to do for you on it? Hopefully God, you can make more than $500 a month with 10 extra hours. So
I can't.
It's like, it's like the thing that's kind of the next step is realizing how important your time is on it. Because it's like, you as an owner, and I sat this down with my owner over the weekend, it's like,
okay, Andrew, I got to get us back to class.
Oh,
I gotta
sorry.
get back
Yeah,
to class.
my bad.
Gotta get back to class. You're
Yeah.
as excited about numbers as I am.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
anyways, but
So,
yeah, that is,
Amy, then give us your final piece and I gotta move on.
yep. So my final piece is just that, like, I always say, so when the people click in, is that I know what I did intentionally by jumping in here first and then joining other things that Mickey has me doing. But all I know is that if I work different systems, and I may not work all of them right away, but as I start working on the systems, all I know is the one thing that makes me tick is growing my wallet. And growing my wallet is happening at a crazy rate. Like, I was scared of taxes last year. I'm already a little like, whew, and putting around, but yeah, I can't no longer write on a piece of paper bills. Like, they need to be in a system. And, oh yeah, they're on long notebooks, Andrew. But yeah, so anyways, that's it. That's where we're at.
It is, one of the things I love about your story is, right, being willing to do things like look at a contract. I mean, one of the biggest pieces that has happened for you is the importance of a contract. Because that is what makes it all work. So if I were going to have the people watching learn one thing from Jamie and how we've, by the end of this year, will quadruple your income, it is understanding the contract. Understanding the contract. Janet Mills, you, is that pictures you have hung up in the background? Did you finally hang up your
30
own
years, yeah. Yes, it's not my
Wow.
art, but a lot went into it. Yep,
Yeah, that was your goal.
it was from a fundraiser, but there's much more that needs to happen. So I'm just overwhelmed from the prosperity from Andrew and Jamie. I just want to soak it up and change my mindset. So that's my report.
And thank you. Jamie, did you see the picture that Janet Mills sent over of you on the thing? Yeah, I'm calling it out right there that we need that picture.
That is, I gave that to my intern, and she said, if this does not speak to your whole spirit, I don't know what else does.
So you win for the winning photograph right there, Janet Mills. Thank you so much. For all of us, same with mine. So yes, let the magic continue. What else do you have to report? You've had a big week, so you've taken some great photographs of the rest of us in class. Thank you.
Me?
Yeah.
I couldn't just slip by and let's see. For my one project of the magazine, the editor's changing, so I'm pretty much doing 100% of it. So that'll be good, except I have to pull in articles, which I haven't done before. So other than the pictures, I live in an ancient house, and it has needed some planning for some badly needed repairs. And I think some of you at the prosperity level that you just hire everything. And but I like to make the creative decisions. Even if it's a tiny little thing, it's a big deal. So that is done. That lining those things up is done. And then we have some fun things coming up in the summer, which is people visiting that I never see, kids and stuff. That makes me realize I have to get going to get ahead of the game with work. Because to plan for fun things. And there's Kathy, who I think of a curator of, what is it? What's that name I love? Product, the curator of purchasing curator.
Selections
She's looking for your
coordinator.
job title.
What's that you do?
Selections coordinator.
Yeah,
Or-
selections. Yeah, I like curator. Yes, so I needed you, but I did.
You could have called.
I know. Yeah. So
It sounds like things are going well.
a lot of things are happening, but I woke up this morning and I'm like, I need to be here because I want to really focus. I like what Jamie said, growing my wallet. I want to focus on work because I had other things. And then there are fun things ahead. So getting ahead with the schedule so that I might be able to have fun.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it. I like it.
That's kind of vague, but I'll pass. We got lots
That's
to do.
great. Okay, Kathy Corkard, give us your update. You've got a lot going on. This is your season on all things fun and all things work.
It is. So last time we talked about making sure that I'm valuing the admin part, the organization part. And so just recently now I have pitched it as such to two separate clients, like, hey, I can do all the fun stuff and take you all the cool places and get you all the cool things. And if you want, I can also make it magical and put it in a sheet. And that way, when something dies, something fails, something you need a new one, or you just want to tell somebody else how awesome this was, you can be like, oh, it's this one because I have this on the sheet and it has all the things. And people are like, yeah, I think there's value to that. So that feels good.
And that is a big deal in pricing and charging.
It is, because now I don't feel torn between like, oh, so I'm sitting here for 7 hours doing all of this and everybody else is out having fun. But this is just part of my job. And then twice this last billing period, and I would love people's input. So I have a contractor that I work with that we don't have like maybe miscommunications, but he's always kind of pushing me like, how many hours do you think you're going to need for this project? Okay, I'll give you that many. Well, then if the project takes more than that, or no one ever writes it down, and then he's like, oh, well, I only put in this much. So, well, I'm 3 hours over that. Well, I can't pay you for that because that's not in the thing. So I ate 3.5 hours on two jobs, between two jobs. And the one I was okay with, the other one hurts a little bit because I was, I feel a little ripped off on that one. And then another contractor kind of pushed back on some hours. And so I discounted them. And I don't know how I feel about that. Like I work my ass off and I give up and I get everybody does. I'm not any different, but I also put off all of the fun like Janet to get all the things done. And so I feel a little resentful because I don't see the contractors that I'm discounting missing out on any of the fun.
Right. And so there's the conversation with the discounter, right? With the contractor. And so there's a couple of pieces on that. One, so can I go to the positive thing first?
Always.
Which is, you do have, it sounds like you're willing to actually bill for all the costs.
Trying to, yes.
Trying to. Okay, and
Yeah.
what percentage higher are you in billing out the back of the room conversation? How much improvement did you have from last time we were talking about it?
What do you mean?
Meaning that, are you billing out 50% more hours in the back end than you were before, 100% more?
Oh, I won't know yet. So because it's a slow, like this, the two projects that I'm working on, they haven't completed. So I don't know what that ratio would be yet. I'm guessing that I'm probably going to bill another 20%.
Okay, so of total revenue.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to take me another 20 because that's 20%
You
of
did
their
that
project.
with your words.
My
Did
big
you
girl
know that?
words.
Those words just paid you 20% of revenue.
That's big.
That's big.
It seems like you're way ahead of last month is what Mickey's saying. Like if you watch yourself last month, you like made a big leap.
Yes, I agree. And I feel like I discounted those hours for the contractor, knowing that I'm going to be making more money with them down the road. Like, hey, I'll eat this time because I want us to play together and I want us to have fun. And I know that I have more work coming.
I'm going to let people respond to that in the chat box because I know there's a lot that people have to say on this topic. So one of the things that I'm loving is that you're going, yeah, it doesn't have to work this way. And that person's time will be limited with you. Because the more you take on your own personal clients, the less you'll be obligated to be with that other contractor. Because right now they're your lead generation, they won't always be. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna have to prepare him for the fact that it will only be a matter of time before he prices you goodbye.
Like that.
To say,
Yeah.
look, here's the big things that we want people to understand, which is, I love working with you. I want us to both to win. Here's the prosperity concept. And here's what happens every time you do this other thing to me, is that as I grow, I am less incentivized to keep you.
Kathy, I just want to say congratulations on valuing your time. All the time you were putting in that you were thinking you should charge for. And we all said, you should charge for that. And so I just want to congratulate you for taking that step.
Thank you.
But the problem that you will get as someone who is thinking of prosperity every day is these relationships that helped you launch and stay, right? That helped you get going. We want to pay homage to them, but
Sure.
the reality is that if you keep them, the contrast between the way that Kathy builds everything beautiful and the way that the contractor builds everything beautiful, it will just widen.
I can see that.
And what happens is it just starts to be this, like, we'll talk about this today in class. I mean, this is the topic. Today is your topic, is why we do it. But what will happen is that contractor won't realize why you're less and less available. How long do you think, based on your projection, because this is your third year, is this your third year? Fourth, we just started your fourth. This is your fourth season. So you're just at the beginning of your fourth season. How long, and I have a number in my head, how long do you think it will be before you don't need that one contractor anymore?
Two years?
He's got 24 months. So if you want to keep the relationship, you've got 24 months to amend it, because otherwise they'll just be out. So part of the prosperity conversation is this somebody I want to invest in?
I feel like I'm getting better at looking at not all relationships are meant forever. And that's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad relationship. It just means that some relationships have a smaller window of time together.
Right. It's true. Okay.
When Kathy, when I start resenting my pricing with anybody, I know it's time to get rid of that relationship. Because then I'm not showing up as 100% me. I'm not putting out my best work, because why should I? Because they're not paying me enough. And I just really don't like moving in that way. But I instantly, when I start feeling resentment or that stomach feeling like, I really don't want to be doing this, it's time for me to start mapping out my exit plan expeditiously with them quickly. Because it just, for me, it always goes downhill from there. Soon as I start feeling that way.
Yeah, so I think you have an exit plan of 24 months on some of these past ideas of how you were building, what you're going to do, and building the language for where you're going. So you've got a roadmap for yourself. Janet Mills, please respond.
I like a friend of ours is a contractor, general contractor, whatever, master of everything. And he says, oh yeah, I can give you an estimate, job estimate. It's gonna be a lot higher than if you pay me hourly. So right there, he gives you the choice. Like, you can have a big giant padded price, or you can pay me actually what I do. And that paying me actually what I do is going to be less. And I listened to that a long time ago, and sometimes that helps me.
Right.
So should I be padding the estimates that I give?
I would.
The other thing is anytime there's a, you know this already, anytime there's an alteration, an upgrade, an add-on, a revision, that's a separate topic. So here's the project, you're going to do the kitchen. And then they decide to change it and all, and improve this, and then that's a separate thing because those are alterations to the original contract. So then you can still make that money for that time.
You know,
So
Hannah,
I will
I don't-
hear something critical for you. And this is actually the key part is that here's where your optimism is failing you. And I think that Jamie's right. I think it's failing you by 15%. Is that you're sure you can get that work done. What you are not sure of is the fact that people like to talk, they ask questions, and you're lovely. So you have to give the process that ability for people to take a breath, So I know that if I haven't seen somebody in a long time, I know I'm going to need another 15 or 20 minutes just to love them up. Just because I miss you, because you're a good client, right? So I have to give myself the extra 15 minutes so that when we get to work, we can really get to work. And for sometimes you're part of that, maybe education of the client, that you really do have an amount of time that you have to just spend educating the client on the process, on what's going to happen, on so forth. So I think that's where your optimism in the conversation is. You're only measuring the work that you're doing. You're not actually measuring what has to happen to get somebody to come through the process. So it's giving them that time. So yeah, and by the amount of unbilling that you have, I would just go back through and that for you is the facts, right? The facts are that in the estimate I gave or the estimate I accepted, it's always 15% less. Let me fix that right away.
And I think that Janet has a really good point too, that like, I'm often sent back to the drawing board, and that's part of the gig, and I never mind, my feelings are never hurt. Like, we're like, yeah, don't like any of these, or, hey, we decided we are going to, and the project either expands or changes, or the contractor is often very loose with, oh, hey, can you help them pick out shutters too? And I always say, of course they can, because it's fun. But what I forget is, of course I can, I'm going to need an additional 3 hours. And I think maybe I don't value my time, but I think more than anything, I'm just having fun. And so it doesn't feel like anything until I go do my billing. And then I'm like, oh, well, they said 22 and I've got 27. Oh, well, it looks like we billed 22.
Yeah. And that's change scope, right? And that's handing them their own language back. Okay, let me change the scope and I'll tell you how much that's going to be.
I like that. Thanks, guys. That was very helpful.
Yeah.
By the way, the color on my computer is awful. This looks very purple and it's black.
Oh, you're kidding me. Wow,
Yeah.
that is amazing. Okay, Penny's still offline, so I'm going to get to our share screen. Are there any more, does anyone have any words of advice for me before I move into our topic? No words of advice? Oh, you guys, come on. Okay, now here's today's topic, which is part 2. If many of you were here on part 1, so this is easy to remember. It is online. I do want to thank you guys for over 4,000 hours of viewing on YouTube. So thank you so much. If you want to go back and look at how cute you are from month to month, you can just go back and review those videos because we are recording, and that is the best. So please use those podcasts. These classes are dense. They have a lot of information in them. And then the other thing I want to remind people about is use your phone. You will want to screenshot certain pages. So, and I saved to the ends the ones that I think you're going to want to screenshot, but I would have them around.
I'm going to be moving around, so I'm going to pop off camera.
Oh, you are welcome to. So the first prosperity lesson is exactly what Andrew started us with today, right? Celebrate those who are gifting into you. If you have someone that has been gifting into you, please chat them into the chat box. Let's speak their joy into the world, and give them a thanks, kind of even energetically, of all the people that have been helping you and what they do for you. If there is something that I specifically did to help you, please let me know. I always love the love. So the conversation today is sacrifice versus self-investment. Exactly what Kathy had said was she's starting to feel a little icky about it. This is where we have sacrifice coming in, and it changes the relationship. I totally respect the fact that sacrifice is how humanity stays afloat. That is correct. We do a lot of things for the good of other people, but there are limits to what we need to give, right? I will sacrifice a lot of things so that something greater can happen, but there's a difference between what we need to give and then this other part of awkward, and that's the part that leads to resentment. So what you want to do, for those of you who are note takers, I'm going to have some side notes for you today. And one of them is to really decide on the investments that you want to make to the people that you love, not just in business, but to the people that you love, and really start to kind of pull them out of your brain during this conversation, because there are a lot of things that we do. And so one of the exercises I do when we're live in classes, I tell people to take a little breath and then take another before you exhale, and start taking about 3 of those, right? And you start to feel that pressure under your chest plate. That right there is when you're taking in too much. And so when you start to feel that pressure, it's that you are not exhaling. It's the common piece, right? Give, receive, give, receive. Take a breath in, give a breath out. Take a breath in, take a breath out. And that is how our investments into people should feel, right? It should be a breath in, a breath out, a breath in, a breath out. I'm not talking about giver's gain. I'm really talking about the energetic exchange, right? That I have enough time to exhale before I'm expected to inhale again. So one of the things I remind everyone, that this is a delicious, rambunctious, emotional, and experimental life. We are all growing through it. And so you're always going to do something right or wrong. You're always going to do something perfect and imperfect. You're always going to be, what I love to call it, rich magic, right? That's the Mickey phrase, right? I'm rich magic. So sacrifice, the way we're going to describe it as we go through, the sacrifice is 100% of the time a loss. It is a loss. It is, you are giving something up, away, over. It is always a loss. And an investment is a step towards gain. And so when you think about the step towards gain, in Kathy's perspective, it is to be ferocious enough to come to the table with a conversation that will allow them all to gain, as opposed to her accepting just what's there. One of the things that we did on this is, Jamien's contract, right? Of what is that look like? Andrew, this is what you're talking about to people all of the time, right? Is we're going to really constantly take a step towards gain. And that's the prosperity message, right? That's how we build. We magnify, and magnification is more, right? That's the point. When you are looking at how do people understand resentment, it's really, I think sometimes it's the desire where you're avoiding, you're not picking up. You just kind of don't want to respond to the inquiry. You want to remain anonymous, right? We see a lot of people who don't want to show up fully. And there is an irritation in there. So for all of you that are here today, that you are advanced in the concepts around sacrifice and self-investment, and that I understand that there are times when there's sacrifice that's available because it leads to a greater gain. I'm really talking about sacrifices that don't, or to identify, does it really? So one of the things that I would look at here, and I gave you a whole bunch. So this is one of those where I would screenshot it So if you want to take your phone and take a picture of it, this is one of them, which is that you're going to want to decide in advance how, this is the how, not just the who, it's the how. How are you going to invest? How are you going to invite into the investments that you want? How are you going to do that? Is that a physical invitation? Is that something that you're going to say? Is that a deal? Is that a contract? When I think about young planners or young people coming into my industry, I think about how I want to invite them into learning 24 years of knowledge that's in my head, right? How do I want to invite that? And sometimes that's just breakfast. Let's just talk about what you're doing. Sometimes it's how I invite somebody versus going, you should pay me to teach me, for me to teach you everything. Sometimes that's not what's needed. What I want them to be is something else. So how I invite, how are you inviting to the people that you're doing business with? How are you inviting education into your lifestyle? How are you inviting partnerships? It's really that piece of how are you going to invite? And if I were going to pick something that was a journal entry, that would be it. That would be it. I put up this other one, and I'll put it up again at the end. So if you can't read it all, that's fine, because it'll be here. And this is one that I'll put up so you can take a screenshot of again, which is how do we invest, right? It's devoting time or energy or resource. And sometimes that's holding space for someone, that's bedazzling the ideas that they have. You guys are investing in the other people in this group right now. That's one of the reasons you show up here. That's one of the reasons why it's great, because this is a safe place for you to bedazzle each other's businesses, because you just want each other to grow, because these are good people and you're doing good things. And that is kind of precious. That is magical. And we see in the trajectory of all of the people that have come through here, there's never, people drop in years later because it's still the right place to be, because they will continue to hold a candle, even if they're too busy, even if it's not the time, even if it was 6 months ago, because they are invested in. So it's not a sacrifice, right? That these are the ways that we can pour into you and that you can pour into others. Some of the things that I really do think are very specific to this group are really that how many of you are the truth tellers, that you are really people that allow imperfections and hold people to the opportunity to improve. And you do that with that idea giving, with that believer, with that I really hope, right? It's almost a blessing. And that is one of the things that makes you magical, just being here in the group, is that you are willing to bless another. So my blessing to you is to remind you that you are the number one, top of the line, no other in the grouping, right? Beyond expansive. You are the most important asset you have. And as you, the asset, the highest cost to you is time. And when we look at this, I do want you to think about the life of the dinosaur or the trajectory of humanity. One of the silliest things about humans is they're constantly investing in things that will lead them to extinction, right? That while we may be the smartest, we may also be the most stupid, right? That instead of investing in the preservation of water, we're looking to take away rules to protect it. That humanity is the only thing that actually invests consistently in the divestiture of their own life. So when we look at extinction of your dream, I want you to really look at how much time you're divesting, you're giving away, you're giving to things that are not going to help in the execution of your target, which is your dream. And that's a really positive thing. That's really claiming that you're willing to invest in something bigger. And sometimes that's 20 years down the road, right? That might be to having your own private jet, to having your own other things, but that may also be just to having a garden that's beautiful. That may be just having a house that's repaired. So when you start to look at how are you divesting, and that means that how many ways am I taking away time that actually fulfills my dream? And that for you as a journal subject is great, but I also think that's about a list of 7 things. And that's all I would pick is about 7. So there is the side note, right? How are other people squandering their time? And I would really pay attention to the ones that irritate you. This is also, time is the only asset that we have that is spend only, right? It is running. It does not stop. It does not wait. It does not pause. Time is running. From the moment you took your first breath to the moment you take it out, right? This is a live show. And so it is the only asset in all of creation that is spend only. It's always running. So when we look for the things for you as a business owner, it is to say, how do we stop sacrificing the spend only asset and hand it over to someone else so that we're spending in the asset classes that we need to as a business owner? And so that's hiring an accountant or getting an assistant or doing some of these other things that help free up your time. And when you look at that, this is where I'm really going to encourage you to go back to what Andrew had said in the beginning, which is the value that he put in for mechanical additions. That this is actually the only place that you have as a business owner to invest in things that will create more time. So this class, right, there were 4,000 hours, 166 days of actual running time that we were able to deliver out into the world. If it ran every hour of the day for how long, it was 166 solid days of this class, of these classes that were able to be delivered without another human intervention. So we didn't have to do any more effort to that. So when you think about your spend only, this is why some of your marketing is such a big deal, because the marketing itself, the mechanical venture of that is an investment for you. When I look at, some of you are old enough to remember that, like, you maybe put off a task for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. When I look back at my 24 years of doing this, when I look at all of the people, I just had a large family come back to me when they found out I was retiring, and they realized that the proposal I gave them 20 years ago, I gave to 2 different families. One took me up on the offer and one didn't. And they met the other family who now has millions of dollars of real estate under their belt. And they have a much different future. And they saw the change that they had missed out on 20 years of what they could have created because of apathy, right? They just didn't have time. I don't feel like doing it, whatever. That is the longest range killer. So when we look at sacrifice, I want you to really think about this for yourself as a business owner, is the time loss of long range costs. That you're sacrificing an enormous amount of time by not putting in something. And it's not like that, you have to consistently invest in the things that are important to you. And if I were going to pick a journal entry, it would be this one, right? How does emotional abundance show up in my currency wealth? When you are healthy, when you are fulfilled, when you feel energetically aligned to your motives, to what you're doing, it will show up as currency, right? Happy people attract abundance. So one of the things that I look at is, right, emotional abundance. And when we look at that emotional gifting, it's what's behind the gift, right? It's behind the physical gift. So when we look at what you're giving to another, it is really, right, it's what's behind it. And the question you want to ask is, right, is this the gift that the other person asked for, right? Is what they're asking for the one I would have given? That someone will often ask me for something based on what they think is their reality. And I sometimes have to go back and just hear their request. And then I have to respond to their request, not react, but respond. And to say, is this, I hear what you're asking for. Can I tell you what I would have offered in the situation? And then let them respond if they want other information, right? Open end the question, not saying, I don't want to do this, I want to do this. But in order to say, hey, I hear what you've asked for. Can I tell you, right? Invite myself to their process. Can I tell you what I would have given instead if you had asked me how to reach this outcome? Or I may ask, may I ask a clarifying question? Because when someone's coming to you to ask for something, they're also feeling very vulnerable sometimes. So it's inviting yourself into their process. This is what we lovingly refer to as grace, is to really ask if you are allowed to be placed into the process of them solving. And if that's a yes, then this is really where the magic is. This is really where the abundance comes in, because it's beyond the physical thing that they've asked for. And now we get into that other part of the emotional abundance. One of the things I remind people about is that, you know, you are a creature that gives comfort, that everyone here is a loving, thoughtful, amazing person. And that is how you became the healthy, well-adjusted person that you are. But what we really have to talk about is your role as a leader. And so it is not just to give comfort, it is to give direction and clarity. So when we think about what is abundance, what is the investment that we are making, is to not just think about scarcity or growth. It is to say, here is direction and clarity on what we're doing. Let me review, let me do oversight, let me give you when we're going to look at that. Let me give you self-assurance, let me look at voice and vision, and really what is the partnership and leadership and the future timing of what it is that you're bringing to the table. What's the investment and how are you rolling it out? And that future timing is a critical part. I always remind people that giver's gain is just ridiculous. It is energetically inappropriate, that we are expecting that an individual will reciprocate is not a gift. So if you're giving because you're going to get, that right there, you just gave somebody a task, you didn't give them a gift. So when you're thinking about that, that's one of the things I will remind people about. We're not here to do giver's gain. What we are here is we're here to give, right, that emotional abundance, right? It's giving our extra that's not in use or necessary for us. If it's not necessary for us, right, it's easy to do. And those are the things you can gift freely and openly and just, you know, just hand it off. It's not in use. This is also, if any of you have done the the task of like going through your house and taking out the stuff that you don't need and focusing in on who can use this and who you can give that to, that is what that creates, is emotional abundance. It's taking something that is extra and not necessary and pushing it towards a place that will give another person that, but it isn't taking away. It's not sacrifice. Sacrifice is always a loss. So even though that thing is being excused from your life, it's actually that you're pushing it into a new direction that it can invest itself into somebody else's life. So when we look about this as a business owner, it's really, this is the blunt question that everyone hates looking at me in the eye for, which is, are you actually giving your product away because you don't know how to sell it? And this was actually the question that we had, because a lot of people don't know how to sell what they're doing. And this is where Kathy gets the A, is exactly this. Are you giving your product away because you don't know how to sell it, right? That she just needed words to increase her income, which is looking like about 20%, to say, I need to charge for the paperwork. Okay, that's great. The other thing that I remind people about is a concept by Ken Honda, is called happy money. It's really good at understanding what you give away, and being free to give away. If any of you were part of the Art for Peace that I did, that was also out of Ken Honda's, right? I had all of this art that I had done. Let me just, give it away to something bigger. And so I sold as many pieces as we could so that I could invest in peace in the world. And we had those. This is a question that's very much a base conversation, which means that it's the underpinning, it's the part that you're standing on that you don't always know you're standing on. And this is where the medicine starts in growing prosperity, right? The medicine starts by really looking at why we give to others first. And once we start to understand that, we will understand not just the medicine, but we will understand the sickness. And so many times we have learned this trait because we've parented, or that, there's another life that's very meaningful. But there are many times where we're giving to others before we give to ourselves. So it's that base level, and really questioning why we give others first is a big deal. Everyone in here happens to be an overachiever. What I mean by that is that is somebody who wakes up every day and really looks at the world as an opportunity to make something better. So when you look at an achiever, that is someone who constantly is looking at every situation, every opportunity to say, I can make this better. This can be a little bit, let me just tweak this one little thing, right? And many of you have really done a great job of making it look easy. And just because it looks simple, because you're very adept to it, doesn't mean it is simple. So one of the things I remind people is that it's your responsibility to tell the person who's asking you for your skill, the big part of the deal. That might be cost, that might be time, that could be resources, it could be reputation, it could be just calendaring. That when someone asks me to be at an event, that the calendaring on my schedule sometimes can cost my admin 3 hours of time, because I really have to be at that event, or I really have to be in that part of the country. So yes, it looks easy that I'm at that event, but I remind people about them. So a lot of times with my scheduler, because people have waited a year to talk to me, that it's really important that they get to keep their time. So when somebody books an appointment, that's sacred time. So I remind them, look, people have waited 1 year for that appointment, and they've waited 1 year and they're paying the highest ticket value available. So we want them to have me on time. We want that to be 100% them. And so when they're asking to just meet me for coffee, no, that doesn't really work. So I don't have a lot of just maybe let's goof around times. When we make investments, some of them feel like a chain. And you've had this happen to you where somebody's giving you a gift, but it's really kind of crummy or it doesn't really feel right. That they're giving you something and somehow there's a responsibility. And we have to look at those, especially in the Midwest, because when there are gifts that are chained with expectation, they're actually masked in hostility. So that's why people don't give to people they see in the streets sometimes, is because they are not sure that the expectation will be met. Well, good, don't give, because you have chained it with the expectation that they are supposed to be doing something, as opposed to just gifting to their day. Maybe they need a sandwich, right? So when people are chaining things to you, I really want you to look at those, because those are the ones that we have to excuse from your life. So when you're looking at people who have invested in you because they have an expectation that you're going to do something, that's a lot of times givers gain, that we have to excuse all of those gifts. We see this a lot in people who receive payment as part of lifetime wealth. We see this in other relationships of, well, I'm paying you and you have to do that. No, you're actually, that's not a gift that you're giving me. You're actually paying me payroll, right? So sometimes we have contracts that are chained with expectation. This is also in your contracts, really giving people what is the expectation of you. When I was as an advisor, I have a piece of paper that I give people of, here is my expectation of what you can expect from me, and I'll 100% deliver that. And one of that is that I'll take notes in our conversation and I'll leave them in your file. That's my expectation. So having notes in the file, now we can count on me to do that, right? But sometimes they have expectations of me in business that are much differently manifested than what are the expectations of somebody who's doing math, right? Remember, you're hiring me for math. You're loving and staying with me because I do all these other things. And the same is true for you, right? That many times people have an expectation that they have made up in their head. And when that expectation isn't met, it's masked with hostility. And then you start to feel really crummy in the relationship. So we have to also excuse those, again, by that conversation, right? Clarity and direction. So even when any time that there is a point in a contract where there is expectation, it is really that point of giving clarity and how you're going to do that. And sometimes that is also working on the future timing of how this will work, not just today, but in the future. For those of you who are side noting, right, on the very bottom of this screen, it says write down the 10 gifts you'd like to receive. Man, I would just start tagging those in the chat box, because I think that this is where we can really see the gifts that you want. So I'm just going to put in there the gift I'm ready to receive, right? That I'm ready for a new car, right? Just start putting in the gifts that you would like to receive. So anyone that would like to drop a brand new Jaguar off at my door, I am available. I will take it in any color except white. Right? So letting people know what are the gifts that are fun for you. This one comes up a lot, is when people are asking for things, it'll hit an emotional button. And if you have not done the work on causal pathway, And I will put that, oh, there you go. Somebody's having a custom Benz, wants a designer car. Fantastic. A causal pathway is really an important topic to understand about how you're reacting versus how you're responding. So when we think about that thing, when somebody trips your trigger, that's not their responsibility, right? They tripped your trigger. They're not responsible that you have one. So that it's not their responsibility to walk through the world thinking about your emotional trigger. Now we do that with people that we love. Sure, I don't want to trip their stuff, but the reality is that emotional triggers this is your emotional garbage. It's not theirs. So this is when we have that prosperity lesson of responding, not reacting. So if you know your tripwire has been pulled, you got to take a breath and kind of write down what you're doing, and then just agree to leap over it for the second, and then say, hey, that's, let me respond to that later. Point two, let me respond to that in a minute. I'm not ready to respond to that exact item, but let me go to this other thing. So sometimes you can actually just leapfrog over the trigger and then go directly into the things that you can do. And sometimes just the act of leapfrogging will take away the sacrificial lamb of feeling like you just got decimated, right? So when we look at how can you move forward, it's just leapfrogging over something that has triggered you to a different point, and then just responding to that or delaying the response. When I went back through and looked at the class from before, this is one that was very much true, right? That you are blessed to be a blessing, that the love that you have, that you can gift, and the ability to do that in the world, that is a gift. This happens to be our Project Elf team, that we send a lot of things out into the world together. And this is us just taking a little selfie in the parking lot. We were having breakfast, but you are blessed to be a blessing. And when you think about that as the lead investor of not only your life, but all of the creation, the entire body of work that you're doing, it is to make an assessment. It is to kind of look through what is there. When we get to the end, I brought some journals to kind of showcase for you of how do you do that? How do you actually take this concept and make it make it utilitarian? So you are blessed to be a blessing. And so taking a sacrifice isn't about being a blessing, right? It's always, 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 always from the prosperity point of view is that we are looking to make a step towards gain, right? What are the winning gains that you personally can place on the table? Sometimes the gains that I can give people is that I will take notes. There are many things. So when you think about what you're going to place on the table that aren't going to detract from any of your other resources, when I take notes and hand people the notes of our conversation, they're like, oh my gosh, we got so much done. Yes, we did. It didn't take me any more time to do that, but now I can put an investment into clarity and direction. And for you as a leader, you don't have to say, oh, well, now I got to go write all this stuff up. No, just take notes while you're in the meeting, and take notes in a way that you can give them to someone else. And for me, it's a top 1 through 10. Let me get through the top 10 things. I'm going to hand you this list. Here you go. And so I just make that list so I can hand it to them. This is a way that I can invest. I don't have to take time out. Expectation. this is, I think, the largest block for everyone on sacrifice. It is the expectations that other people have of us, that we have of ourselves, that are these magical stories that aren't always based in reality. The expectation, and the higher you are performing, the greater the expectation is that you should give, the greater the expectation is you shouldn't hurt, the greater the expectation is that people are going to make up stories about how you got here. And that piece you will have to energetically manage, because the sacrifice for high achievers is expected. It's expected in culture, and it is expected in every culture across the globe. So, and it's high achievers that are performing or that have created great abundance and wealth. And it is also something that leads to trauma and cynicism and ill will. And when you look at people who have made an enormous amount of money, some of them are very unhappy and angry. And the goal is that we'd like you to truly be someone who is prosperous, that can ask for more, that can give more, that can love the details, that can invest in something bigger, that you can change your friends, that can help change you, that you will consistently understand that you are a living soul here, that you will speak to a free future that you want to create. So when we look at what is here, it is to say, I am not going to constantly take losses to get to where I'm going. I'm going to look for investments and see how I can do that. And call people out. Many people who are in high places believe that feelings around the conversation of sacrifice are something that they shouldn't talk about. That this isn't a language that's allowable. It's if you have everything, you're not allowed to feel pain. Or that you why are you complaining? It's only $500. You make $500 in 100 minutes. Right? Or you make $500 in 1 minute. Why are you complaining? How can you not be happy? And the expectation in that role for people who have created a bounty, who have wealth, who have done this, is the expectation is also that you as a high performer should endure the loss. And that is really when we start talking about self-esteem. And this is where hanging out here is really helpful, because it is really giving permission to say, let's go back to understanding self-esteem. And when I tell people what self-esteem is, it is holding that precious cargo of you, of your ideas, of your dream, of your soul, of who you are in this life of life, right? In the land of the living. Who is you? Is holding that in the highest honor. That is the esteem of the self. And all of sacrifice comes down to that one point. It is to question the ask. Are you impeding the esteem, the role, the caregiving, that you are the treasurer and the one who is responsible to the self? Are you holding you as yourself in the highest esteem? That is also called grace or dignity. It is allowing the self the opportunity to exist. So when we go back to that slide, I'm going to tick back to that slide. And I had said to you, right, this is the thing that is underneath. It's the medicine and the magic, right? Why do we give to others first? And this is where it comes into in the prosperity lesson of understanding the esteem of the self. And that it is critical at times to give to another, but it is why. It is the motive. It is understanding the exchange. There are many times that I will get up and water my flowers before I eat breakfast because I want the flowers to live through morning, right? Why are we giving first? Why are you doing that? So when you think about the esteem of the self, this is a very complex thing. So when you have people who, like you, who are going to do great things, have a large wallet of choices, it is this expectation that culture has given you that I'm going to really, going to push back on, because it's not a reasonable expectation of the work that the heart needs to do, right? So when we go back to that conversation about you in business, we see this as selling or giving something that's undervalued. It is not. It is your role as someone who is protecting the self. You are again being part of your own extinction when you are giving something that is undervalued. And that value is often behind a mask that you're trying to do. I want to look successful, so I'm going to take any work at any price. Or I want to have this other thing. Now, there are times when we will do something of undervalue because it's a creative project. I want to do that. I just want to learn. There's a lot of other pieces, but that's about motive. I'm not saying that you can't discount the work that you're doing because you want something. I'm saying we have to come in and ask, what is the reverence? What is the vibration? What is the future you are speaking to when you do that? And that is really taking that breath and, right, the inhale, the exhale. Because sometimes it is that we are willing to sacrifice because something else has a more pressing claim. And that part is around motive, right? So when we look at that, there's also, when I see people who will discount their own future is because they constantly gave a more pressing claim to things that didn't add up to their target, right? Remember, we have goals, we have targets, and this is a target lesson. And this is the target lesson. I think you guys are going to have a lot to talk about in this. And you can put that into the chat, because I think this is one of those things that I would take a screenshot of, because, right, it is to forego in the sake of something else having a more pressing claim. Every single business owner will shoot themselves in the foot, that they will say, this is really important to do now, and they don't take care of their future first. And so even if it's not first, it has to be in the equation. It has to be in the equation. I am going to just take one quick second and stop share, and I'm going to come back in to all of you. This is big work. This is big work. Does anyone have questions for me immediately on the topic? Okay, if you do, put it into the chat box, because these are big concepts. And then what I'll do is I'll come back. When we look at gifts to family, Jamie, do you have something for us or no?
No, I don't. Oh, I don't know why my mute was off, but no, I don't really have anything from you. I'm just taking in just the
Isn't it
thought
big?
process
It's
change.
big. It's
Yeah.
big.
No
It's
one
big.
ever thinks about sacrifice in that type of way, of that it's a loss, you know, like we're all told business is a sacrifice, and starting your own is a sacrifice, and you should sacrifice this. And especially in my community, when we raise to certain levels, it's almost expected that we sacrifice our everything to give back to our people. And if we don't, we're told we're sellouts, or we're this, or we're that, because we don't, or because we may not, or at a level that they may feel is like we want to. I think about, I don't know who got to talking. Is that me?
Yeah.
No, I hear no.
Yeah, everybody else is on mute.
Oh, I don't know what that was. Somebody was talking in my phone.
Crazy.
But yeah, so like no one ever puts it out to us that way, that like when we sacrifice something that it's undervalued, or even thinking about, okay, if I do take this lesser amount, or if I do this, like, what is that really saying? Is this worth the investment of me doing it? Because in essence, it's the investment of my time. And I think about, like, even with my own family, many times when I haven't had it, there's been this expectation, like, we'll just call Jamie because she has it, or she can get it, or she always finds the money, so she can, you know, she'll figure it out. And even in some of my business partnerships with people, it's that way too. Like, this just went to shit, but Jamie will figure out how to make the money for it or get it.
Right. Right. And that's that expectation piece where, and we see a lot of communities that are like that will have what I believe is sometimes a heightened or an unfair expectation of those who are doing well. And that part of the prosperity, as you grow, it only becomes greater. And so it's really coming up with, how are you going to manage that as you become more prosperous? So, you know, that's one of the things that we really want to adjust to. So thanks for bringing that up. I'm going to go back into our slide. What I want to talk about is gifts to family. And that family portion of that is that we are a lot of times going to give to them because, I mean, come on, they're adorable. We love that. And so when you look at that, I think that's sometimes its own category. Today, we're really going to focus on, right, how we're gifting into our business, into our partnerships, into our clients, and into the world as a large goal, right? How are we gifting into the body of work? And I do want you to think about the body of work that you are creating, and that when we're leading from that prosperity voice, we are also leading with dignity. And when we look at dignity, it is sometimes that we're going to give up so another can gain. Sometimes we're going to give up so that somebody can have something. I get that part. And sometimes we're not sacrificing for a negative, that we are sacrificing so that someone else can have something specific. And that's a cultural piece that isn't talked about a lot, is what is the role of dignity when we do, when we have sacrifice. So when you're thinking about that, and we think about it as time, it's something as simple as like walking with someone so that they don't have to be afraid while they do it, right? So sometimes it is, I'm going to give that child dignity by walking into the scary room and seeing what's underneath the bed. That's right, so that they can gain trust, so that they can do that. I will sacrifice my time for that. That's different, right? Those are things that are there. But sometimes we are also going to lead the way for other people. When we look at the things that we can do to bring dignity into the world, is so that it doesn't, that we don't ask other people to have to sacrifice, that we will give it respect to trade for a price that honors value. So even if you don't have what it takes to do that, it is often asking that to go, I don't, that price is difficult for me to make. I want to give you respect and dignity in what you're offering. Is there anything else I can do to honor the value of what you're gifting that can be a little closer to where I'm standing? So it's learning the language about how to give and receive dignity and not just expecting sacrifice. So love and sacrifice are often intertwined, and these two places get really sticky, especially in our closest relationships. So if I were going to pick something for a long-term conversation, I would just write down, right, how do I give dignity and respect in the relationships that I'm trading with? Because we know when it feels icky, right? We know when we don't feel a desire to continue, where we're not picking up the phone, that we're having a little bit of animosity, right? When we have those feelings, that's resentment. And resentment 100% of the time, 100% of the time, is detrimental. It's detrimental to your own prosperity. It's detrimental to your emotional abundance. It's detrimental to your ability to maximize, because you're too busy hanging on to this dark cloud. So the fastest way to do that is to really decide in advance on the outcomes and investments you want to make into the people that you love. The other thing that I often remind people about is that they are so used to that they are better than, or that they don't want to, or they shouldn't have to, whatever. There's so many, boy, so in this culture at this time, when people ask for free stuff without a need, they need to understand that it's disrespectful to the nature of gifting. And so you're just asking me for that because you don't actually need it, or that someone will take it or whatever. It's really to help people understand when they're asking for free stuff without an actual need, that it's disrespectful. And this culture specifically has a lot of, this is what gold diggers were kind of about, but it is because it really pushes the limit and takes something that is filled with honor and grace and love and the joy of sacrifice, right? There, I will absolutely give up something of mine so you can have more. Sure, if I think it's the right thing, if it fits in to who I am, if that's an investment I want to make. But doing it just because you don't have a need is disrespectful. So again, I remind people, if you are not feeling that simple sweetness, that playful, that goodwill, then you're probably working from resentment. We see so many people working in, that they're just kind of crabby all the time. If you've ever, my friend has a joke about about people that are just punching in the clock and putting in time, right? They're kind of angry. They're just at work. They're putting in the clock. They're not really there to help you. Right? These are not people that are filled with joy, right? These are not investing in your life, right? So if you've ever had to go get a driver's license or something like that, and you think, oh, these people are just not happy. They are not invested in that, but they are resentment of having to be there so long, or the resentment of people always being an idiot. Okay, great. But so if you're starting to feel that it's not fun anymore, that's really time to start looking at resentment. And when you are looking for what is emotional investment, just look around the people that you see that are happy all the time, and the times in yourself that you have found this greatest piece of joy. That the gift is often the thing in between. When you look at this picture of a gentleman and a young person, they're obviously doing some holiday shopping, right? The gift isn't necessarily what's in the boxes that they're carrying. The gift is that they're having this experience together, right? They're having this time, they're having an exchange, and they're bringing something somewhere. And you are always bringing something somewhere. And in your body of work, I would think about what is the investment. The investment between those two smiles is very clear. And that's where we see abundance. Emotional abundance is the space between those two smiles. If you want to measure abundance, you just have to look at two people and how they look at each other. And you will see how much emotional abundance that is there. This is our beautiful Fatun Ali. This was the lesson that she had to learn about her own community and how to speak to it, was that she had to understand the conversation around sacrifice versus self-investment. It wasn't to say, what is it that she had to say? It is that she had to understand what she wanted others to receive. And so when you're thinking about investment, it is to really understand what is it that you want others to receive. And sometimes that is the ability for them to chart the path on their own, that you're looking for them to be able to have a tool so that they can become a tool. When you think about what is the voice that you have in the body of work that you do and the overall messaging, what is it that you want others to receive? And this is another assignment that I give in class when we're live. I would have handed this out to you, which is to make a list of the investments that you want to make in the world. And I would start to really map out what that would look like and what does it mean to your pocketbook. When I first was doing this exercise for myself, I knew that I wanted to give away $30,000 in one day. And what did that look like? And what would that mean? And that year we were in a recession. And so we built Thanksgiving at a beautiful restaurant and invited these people who had more means to be able to give into a community and to let these large families be able to come together and celebrate in a space that was not only beautiful, it had wonderful food, but these large families that could not be together in any other way could now be together. And in many times we found that these were people's last Thanksgivings, that maybe Aunt Sadie was going to be alive, or that they couldn't fit these 30 people in one room. And they wanted to have this beautiful Thanksgiving, even though they couldn't afford to have that. So when you start to look at the investments that you want to make in the world, I would just start kind of vision boarding through it. And that, from the minute I made that goal to when it fruited, was probably in a week of, hey, we have this crazy idea. Oh yeah, well, I have just the thing. So when you start to look at what are the investments that you want to make in the world, I wanted, right, to be able to give this gift, but I wanted to be able to bring something that was an investment into everyone, that they could remember that time forever. That day that we went to this beautiful restaurant and had a time to be together. So when you talk about that, it is motive. It is really not just what are you planting, it is why are you planting? Why are you planting that seed, and what is it about that that's important for you? The relationships that are investments, this is another assignment, as I would make a list of 7 people, and I would start your investment club for how are you going to invest in each other's careers, and what is it that you can do. I've done this with with other people where we've paired them together. It's not an accountability coach. This is really an investment club of how can we invest in you? So pick your 7 very carefully. Co-creation is another tool for you. That's where everyone has some skin in the game. And that is a way that nobody has to sacrifice, that we can all invest in a greater piece. Outcomes in those relationships are the investments, right? Are you investing in your target? We've done a lot of conversations around targets, and it might be time for you to look at new targets. The last kind of tip here is, right, extending your timelines. If you have gifts that you want to give, if you want them to have bigger returns, then just extend the timeline. Instead of gifting today or this week, look at a 10-year period of what is it that you bring to the community. So these are the 2 slides that you're probably going to want to screenshot, which is this one, right? If something makes you feel any of these words, it probably is that you haven't thought it out enough. So think about that. Is what you're here to work in the energy of love and growth. So recognize the emotions and the feelings of when it's not that way. And here's the second slide that I would screenshot, which is, right, devoting what you're doing. Look at your investments. Look at how you're going to invest in other business owners. Look at your list. I would start that investment group of each other because it is what's there. If you haven't watched the previous video, please do. We had a lot of different conversations in the last one. That's why this is part 2. And again, right, finish the sentence. That's going to be our kind of takeaway. What am I rich with? This is our quick time to go away. Let us know what you're taking away. Penny, we got you for part of the time. Definitely put your information in the side of who you are and what you're doing. You're back in business on your own. What are you taking away today? You can unmute and just tell us. I don't know how much of this you got to listen to today.
I got some of it, so I could connect with the part where people are feeling taken advantage of. I know that. So that was a boundaries thing. So I get that. The discount thing, I did that for years and years. Nobody ever bit onto the discount. So that told me, the universe said, hey, you don't need to give a discount. Nobody's buying it. You're worth more than that. Do not discount yourself because you need to make more than that. And you give one.
Yeah, very good. Janet Mills, what's your takeaway?
That resentment is actually a gift that we can feel it. So we can feel if we have a really comfortable pair of shoes and we're walking with someone as a business partner, as an analogy or metaphor. And we can also feel if there's a piece of glass in our shoe hurting us. So it's actually the resentment. I realize the fact that we can sense that is important. So then we can pay attention to that. And like Kathy was saying, and Mickey was responding to Kathy, we can move above and beyond those relationships that are like a piece of glass in our shoe.
Oh my God.
Actually, I had a lot of things, but I'll let other people.
Okay. All right. Karen Carson, what are you taking away today?
I think it's always hard to talk about sacrifice. And I think particularly starting when you're like very young in grade school, perhaps, it's kind of where you get to be popular. And all of a sudden people start to bring you down because you're popular. And I think that sacrificing in your business is hard to recognize sometimes that you are sacrificing and that you're just trying to be a nice guy, but that's not always the best way.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Kathy Corkhart, are you with us? What are you taking away from today?
Where'd she go?
Oh, She must still be in our meeting. Okay, Jamie, and what are you taking away today?
I am taking away, I'm gonna write this list of why I'm investing into other people and things. And just really gonna sit away with the thought process about my feelings behind what I sacrifice and how I sacrifice them. Not just in my business, but even in my personal life, because my personal affects my business very heavily. So just my whys, family members, friends, my money, my business partners and business relationships. Why am I investing in certain type of ways?
Yeah. I have a little book that I keep with me at all times, and I put all my numbers in it. And, it is pages and pages of why am I making. But I flagged a couple of those because I wanted to make sure that I was doing some of the things in my future. So like I made a list of the 1,000 pieces of educational investment I wanted to make into myself. What were the classes? What were the things that were there? And I started to keep score of how much I had really done. And it is this tiny written list, right, of 1,000 educational investments that I wanted to make into myself. So that's why it always looks like I've read everything, because I do. But I had to, because I had to make it a goal, a motive, because I wanted to give myself a master's degree. So I figured out how many hours it was to give myself a master's degree. So I wanted to give myself a new master's degree in learning every 3 years. So that meant that I had to do so much in education. So that way I could take it in 20-minute bites of this, that, the other thing. So what I also will kind of put forward with you, and that also explains why I know so many randomly weird things to do. Here's another one that I really do like, which is sometimes it's these hidden assets versus a revealed asset. So sometimes it is really looking at the investment, my investment in myself. So a lot of things are revealed that I can see, right? We can see that sometimes I'm funny, even if I'm the only one that thinks so, right? And a revealed asset is sometimes just my smile. Sometimes people are just happy because they'll see me happy, right? That's a revealed asset. So it's really looking at some of the hidden assets that I don't see about myself. And so I have a list that I kind of review and I start to put things in it. But as you go through, if you want to know the secret behind what is Nikki doing with her spare time and what am I journaling on, it's really to look at that as an investment in myself, investment in the gifts I'm giving, investment in the body of work. So I thought that would be, they asked me to bring this, I'm in this cohort group of other financial officer people, of women in my trade. And one day they asked me, like, will I share my notes? And I thought, oh gosh, you guys, do you really want to see this? And they did. So Jamie, and the other thing that I did is that you will like, is that I have a pullout page in here that I make every year, which are my mentoring assets and why I'm doing them and who am I mentoring and what's in there. And on one of these, oh yeah, so there was the year that I chose to invest in Houston, right? That what was I there to do and why am I there? What are my motives for being there for them? So when I look at all of you that I'm investing in, these are my pullout pages. I have them in here and just add these extra pages because sometimes I just have to review what I'm doing and why am I investing in that in my community, right? And you're doing a lot of work in multiple communities. So it was just very simple, right? It's their name and then really looking at why it fits into my values and what that looks like. So I think sometimes that's very helpful. So sometimes it is around someone who is perhaps an immigrant, that I want their business to be here because they're actually going to support everyone else in their community. So why do I want that, right? I want that because if that one person can lead, they'll lead and magnify out. And for me, that was a big piece, was how do people magnify? And then, so when you're starting to look at that, I think that's one of the things that I would look at. Another one that I did is my top 100. Janet Mills, you're on this list of other creatives that I count on. So I made a list of who would be my creative partners in investments that I could make, right? Like, what's the top 100 people that I need to continue to stay creative? And Karen Karsten, I believe that you and Janet Mills are number 1 and number 2 on my list, by the way.
When I stopped writing out lists, I went more to
Actions.
visual.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is in reasons to stay in your comfort zone and reasons to get out of it. And in the middle is all of the things that are there that are keeping me there. And I do this for clients also, where they do more of an image-based thing than to write it out
Yes, love it.
faster. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it as a picture. I love it as a picture. Hey, Kathy, we were just asking, what are you taking away from today?
So many things. One, the admin piece on people that become really within a community or within a family when maybe not everybody
Oh, you're breaking up on us. You're breaking up.
is. I thought that and my internet connection is unstable.
Yeah, wow, you don't like that. Okay, well, if you don't, put it into the chat box if it's not going to be stable, but let's try it again. No,
So no,
you're just freezing. Yeah, you're just freezing on us. Okay, well, definitely put it in the chat box. We want to hear everything that you have to say. Once again, the pieces, if you have social media or something else that you want everybody in here to know, please do.
Also, if she turns off her video and just has the audio.
Oh
we might
yeah,
be able
why
to
don't you
hear
turn off
her.
your video and then just tell us all your sweet words. That's the brilliance. Karen Karsten, you're so smart. Okay, Kathy, now let's talk, see if we can get it.
so I put in the chat the unrealistic expectation that we put on those that are successful.
Oh yeah, this is great. And now we can hear you perfectly. So let's hear
good.
that part. The unrealistic expectation, right?
Yeah, so they're never going to be able to achieve that, and that we ask so much and we build resentment towards them because we think that things are easier for them because they have achieved a level of success, and that's not fair. And those people who have made it maybe a level above the haters, for lack of a better word.
Yep.
I realize that it doesn't come easy. And so then I feel like I often have to justify, because I have those people in my family that look at it and go, oh, everything was given to you. Yeah, it was through blood, sweat, and tears. It was absolutely given to me. And then also that I sacrifice for everyone, and then I don't take care of me. The little things that I even used to do for me, like I would spend 20 minutes every morning doing meditation and yoga. And now there's always too much to do. There's always somebody else's needs that are being put ahead of mine, and that I'm the only person that's really controlling that. And then I feel resentment. So getting back to that idea of taking care of self and being able to give in a way that's generous without expectation.
Right. Right. I love that. I love that lesson on self-esteem for you, of really saying, let me hold the self of Kathy in esteem. and do that first.
Yeah, I'm not good at that.
Okay, once again, I have gone over time. Thank you so much for being with us today. I always appreciate you and your magic. Jamien's in this summer's cohort, so I'll see you in cohort. Penny, I'm so glad to see your face again. Welcome to this side of the table again. She's always in corporate, so we do love seeing you more often. Janet, you're always there. Thank you so much. Karen Karsten, always the master of ceremonies. Do you have any last things you want to tell people before we sign off?
Think about yourself for about 5 minutes, at least every day, 10 minutes, increase it till you get comfortable with it. It's a beautiful picture of you, Kathy Korgard.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is.
And Penny, I don't know what subscription you're talking about.
Well, I'll let you guys private message. Okay. Bye, everybody. Bye. Have a great day. Bye, Kathy. Bye, Jamien. Bye, Janet. See you. Bye, Penny. Bye. Bye. Bye, everybody.
I had something pop up and go by my screen. I think it was in Yahoo though. So I wasn't
Oh,
sure what it
good.
was.
Okay, because we don't have a subscription. You just show up.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
I looked in there. I guess it was something that was an email. And it flew by.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.